Just two canicule afterwards the wedding. My son-in-law showed up at my abode with a notary. We aloof awash this house. You're effective to a retirement home. His complacent smile promised a quick achievement over the old man. But I calmly replied, great. Let's stop by the brand base first. They're absolute absorbed in what I beatific them about you. Those words afflicted everything. Before we continue, Amuse subscribe to the acceptance and address in the comments what time it is area you are now. Preston, Lillian, and I charge our own abode to alpha our ancestors properly. Philip leaned forward, his wine bottle communicable the restaurant's dim light. Your abode would be absolute for an adolescent couple. The words hit me like ice water. I set bottomward my fork, the bell's block still candied on my tongue, axis bitter. Two canicule, we'd acclaimed their alliance 2 canicule ago. And now this. Philip, that's my home. My articulation backward level, but my easily activate the bend of the table. I congenital it with my own, easily 20 years ago. Lillian abashed amid us. Her bell's arena communicable, the candlelight. The golden oak's affectionate birth aback, acquainted suffocating. Added diners laughed at adjacent tables. Absent to the bomb that had aloof exploded in ours. But your aloof won actuality in such ample house. Philip's smile never wavered. It's not practical. And at your age, wouldn't you adopt article added manageable? At my age, 68 wasn't ancient, but Philip battened like I had one bottom in the grave. The albino canal trembled in my grip. We'd booty, such acceptable affliction of it, he continued, all-encompassing above to draft Lillian's hand. Think about it. Your grandchildren arena in those accommodations someday. Lillian's eyes darted amid us. Dad, Philip, Amuse don't fight. It's declared to be a blessed day. Happy? I'd accounting a $15,000 analysis for their bell's reception. The flowers from the commemoration still sat angled in the centermost of our table, petals browning about the edges. Philip, I straightened in my seat. At my age, I'm still able abundant to accomplish decisions about my own property. You can break for a few canicule while you accretion your own place. His assured announcement flickered. Aloof for a moment, article algid anesthetized abaft his eyes afore the absorbing affectation returned. Of course, Preston I acquire completely, but his accent had sharpened. It's aloof that rental prices these canicule, and with Lillian's teaching salary. We'll manage, honey. Lillian awkward his hand, but I bent the anguish in her voice. Money had consistently been bound for her. Philip's jaw anchored about imperceptibly. I was acquisitive we could altercate this as family. Afterwards what's the point of captivation on to such a admired asset aback it could annual all of us? Admired asset? Not my home. Not the abode area. I'd agitated my wife over the threshold. Area Lillian had taken her aboriginal steps. Area Margaret had spent her final days. An asset. The accomplishments applesauce acquainted biting now. Couples at added tables aggregate affectionate conversations, while abundance fell afar in absolute time. Aid glided past, refilling baptized glasses with accomplished invisibility. The acknowledgement is no. Ceremony chat came out harder than the last. Accretion your own place. Philip leaned back, his smile axis brittle. Well, we can absolutely altercate it. Added aback affections aren't alive so high. Emotions? As if absent to accrue my own abode was irrational. Lillian's face channeled slightly. Maybe we should go home. Home? She meant my house. Area they'd been blockage aback, the honeymoon. Area Philip had already started allurement questions about the heating system, the acreage taxes, the adjacency values. I pushed it back from the table, my napkin falling to the floor. The added diners blurred in my borderline eyes as claret rushed to my ears. Preston, wait. Lillian bisected rose from her seat, but I was already standing, fishing my wallet for my jacket. 2 $20 bills hit the table with added force than necessary. Booty affliction of the check, I managed. I charged some air. Philip's articulation followed me as I angry away. We'll allocution about this later. Preston, aback you've had time to anticipate it through properly. The restaurant's amore apprenticed to join my aback, as I absolved to join the exit, Ceremony footfall accustomed me abroad from my daughter's argumentation eyes and my son-in-law's artful smile. The matron nodded politely, blind that my apple had aloof abashed below my feet. Outside, March air bit at my face. I fumbled for my car keys, easily abashed with added than cold. The drive home anesthetized in silence. Lillian's abashed glances of fire into my sensor through the rearview mirror. By the time I pulled into my driveway, my tie acquainted like asphyxiate about my neck. Inside, I abandoned the cottony bond and caked 3 fingers of whiskey. The abstraction accustomed me with accustomed shadows, covering armchair beat to my shape. Bookshelves captivation, 40 years of calm wisdom. Margaret's photos activated from the board corner. I sank into the armchair with a grunt. Outside, artery lights, corrective geometric patterns above my yard. My house. The adventurousness of it still blanket my breath. $15,000. I'd accounting that analysis, afterwards hesitation. Watching Lillian's face ablaze up as she declared her dream wedding. The Golden Oaks accession hall, the chord quartet, the busy floral arrange that amount added than some people's cars. Also, my babe could acquire her absolute day. Now her bedmate capital the abode, too. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through Belle's photos from 2 canicule ago. Philip acid cake, his Duke over Lillian's on the knife. Philip dancing with my daughter, spinning her until she laughed. Philip abashed my hand, calling me dad for the aboriginal time. Had he been planning this alike then? The whiskey burned, but not as abundant as the anamnesis of Philip's smile aback I'd refused, like he'd accepted resistance. Like this was all allotment of some above. Game. My fingers activate the board drawer, diplomacy out the covering annual area. I kept important thoughts. Margaret had accustomed it to me aback. I retired from engineering. For all those annual awkward about in your head, she'd said. March 2025. I wrote the date carefully. Philip Green fabricated appeal for abode buying during Belle's ceremony banquet claims applied. Apropos mentions my age repeatedly. Lillian afflictive, but admiring of husband. The pen acquainted abundant in my hand. What affectionate of man does that? 2 canicule, afterwards a Belle's I paid for. He wants my home, not allurement to buy it, not suggesting we advertise and breach proceeds. Wants it handed over like I'm some doddering old fool accessible for the nursing home. I set the pen bottomward and absolved to the window. The artery looked peaceful. Porch lights glowing, televisions ablaze, abaft curtains. Accustomed families alive accustomed lives. Not ambidextrous, with sons-in-law who batten about admired assets over Belle's cake. Back at the desk, I open my laptop, coffer statements, acreage records, allowance documents, numbers that represent a lifetime of accurate planning. The abode was annual $400,000, maybe added in today's market. My alimony and accumulation would, after most addition, 20 years, maybe 30 if I was careful. Philip knew all this somehow. His questions during the assurance hadn't seemed invasive at the time. Aloof, a budding son-in-law, assuming absorption in ancestors' matters. Now, they acquainted like reconnaissance. What's your acreage tax bearings like, Preston? This adjacency charge acquire abundant acknowledgement rates. Acquire you advise what you'll do with all this amplitude eventually? I'd answered honestly, appreciative of my cyber banking stability, appreciative to appearance Lillian's fiancé, that she came from a defended family. Margaret's photo bent the lamplight, her eyes appearing to watch as I worked. What would she say about this situation? She'd consistently been bigger with bodies than me, bigger at annual hidden motives. Trust, but verify, she acclimated to say. People appearance you who they are if you pay attention. I've been too blessed about Lillian's assurance to pay able attention. Too beholden she'd activate addition afterwards her annulment 3 years ago. Too able she seemed acclimatized and content. The annual lay open, cat and mouse for added observations. I best up the pen again. Philip Green, 38 years old, business consultant, claims to admonition baby companies advance efficiency. Works from home, campaign occasionally for clients, never mentioned specific companies or showed abundant business ability during conversations. The added I wrote, the added questions emerged. What absolutely did Philip do for work? I'd never apparent him in an able appointment building, never heard him booty business calls about the house. His assets seemed adequate, but not excessive. Yet he proposed with a 2-carat arena that charge acquire amount $20,000. I bankrupt the annual and accomplish for my phone. Tomorrow I'd alpha allurement questions, alpha with an alarm to Edward Lloyd. My advocate had handled Margaret's estate, knew my cyber banking situation, accepted the amount of discretion. Article acquainted amiss about Philip Green. Absolute wrong. The grocery accoutrements acquainted added, then accepted as I pulled into my driveway Thursday afternoon. 2 canicule of alive Betty by a back that restaurant action had larboard me drained. Every adumbration appearing to adumbrate new threats to my accord of mind. Seal Brown straightened from his annual bed as I stepped out of the car, his asperous face cutting the announcement of a man with burning annual to share. Preston, he above from his backyard to abundance with quick steps. I charge to acquaint you article important. I set the advantage on my car's hood. Seal's aloft brand, instincts axiomatic in his austere tone. What's action on? Bygone afternoon. Philip brought addition to your house. Seal glanced to join my advanced door, afresh aback to me. Business blazoned in a suit, accustomed to attaché and some affectionate a barometer device. My claret went cold. What were they accomplishing exactly? Walking about the property, barometer things, demography photos. The guy was autograph aggregate bottom ward in a notebook. Seal's eyes narrowed. Looked like an able appraisement to me. Absolute job. The advantage aback, acquainted, insignificant. How connected were they there? About an hour, maybe longer. Philip had keys. Let him inside, too. Sissel's announcement showed he accepted the implications. Guy spent a lot of time in your backyard. Measured the fence line. Took pictures of the foundation. My easily clenched in a fist. Figured you knew about it. Otherwise, I would acquire alleged sooner. Acknowledge you, Seal. This is absolute important information. I effective the grocery accoutrements with abashed hands. Absolute important indeed. Inside, I abandoned the accoutrements on the kitchen adverse and went beeline to my study. The computer took consistently to Cossack up. Ceremony added addition like an hour, while my apperception raced through possibilities browser history. If Philip had acclimated my computer, there'd be traces. The chase history loaded, and my affliction fears embodied on the screen. Wednesday afternoon, while I'd been at the accoutrement store, Edition had conducted all-encompassing research, acreage appraisers, Chicago suburbs, absolute acreage appraisement services, quick abode auction companies, banknote buyers, residential properties. Ceremony chase, appellation hit, like an accurate blow. I circling down, award more. Acknowledged requirements, acreage transfer, Illinois, ability of attorney, absolute acreage transactions, age homeowner abetment programs. My easily trembled as I clicked through the visited websites. Able appraisement services, companies that promise quick sales for cash, acknowledged firms specializing in acreage transfers for chief citizens. Philip hadn't aloof brought an adjudicator to my house. He'd researched the absolute action of demography for me. The armchair creaked as I leaned back, processing the consequence of his deception. This wasn't an ad-lib appeal fabricated over banquet wine. This was an affected plan, apparently months in the making. I anticipation about the assurance period, Philip's accurate questions about my finances, his absorption in my circadian routines. Had he been evaluating me like ambition from the beginning? My buzz buzzed. Text bulletin from Lillian. Dad, are you action? Better? Philip says you seemed agitated at dinner. Maybe we can all allocution tonight. Talk. Philip capital to allocution again, apparently to present his reasonable angle backed by able appraisals and acknowledged research. I stared at the screen, affirmation bright as daylight. With abashed fingers, I accomplished for my buzz and dialed Edward Lloyd's number. This was bigger than aloof, absent my house. This was analytical fraud, and I bear able admonition immediately. Edward Lloyd's office. This is Sandra. My easily befuddled as I absorbed the buzz tighter. Sandra, it's Preston Weaver. I charge to allege with Edward immediately. It's urgent. He's with a client, Mr. Weaver. Can I acquire him, alarm you back? Acquaint him it's about fraud. Absolute acreage fraud. The words acquainted adopted in my mouth. Acquainted my son-in-law, Philip Green, is aggravating to abduct my house. A pause. I'll get him appropriate away, sir. The wait connected endlessly. I paced my study. The browser history still aglow on the computer, awning like affirmation of an abomination already committed. Preston. Edward's articulation agitated absolute concern. Sandra said article about artifice involving your son-in-law. Philip Green. I affected the name through gritted teeth. He's planning to booty my house. Edward. I acquire affidavit. He's been researching how to do it legally. The blackout on Edward's end lasted too long. Philip Green, you said. Yes, he affiliated my babe 2 canicule ago, and now he's Preston. I charge you to sit down. Edward's able accent had a bash to article added urgent. Accord me a moment to analysis article in my files. I heard keyboard clicking, affidavit rustling, the accustomed sounds of Edward's methodical acceptance to acknowledge problems. But his accent appropriate, this wasn't routine. Preston, I acquire 3 alive cases involving Philip Green. Ceremony chat hit like ice water. He specializes in absolute acreage artifice targeting age homeowners. The allowance agey about me. Are you adage he's done this before? His adjustment is consistent. Marry into families, accretion trust, afresh use artificial abstracts to affirmation acreage ownership. Edward's articulation had gone absolutely professional, like he was annual from case files. The victims are consistently men in their 60s or 70s, consistently afresh widowed, consistently with developed accouchement who are financially struggling. My chargeless Duke activate the board band for support, but he aloof affiliated my daughter. That's absolutely his timeline, Preston. He works fast before victims can acknowledge or seek acknowledged advice. Affidavit rustled again. How abundant did you apperceive about his background? Nothing concrete. He claimed to be a business advisor formed from home. The acceptance acquainted pathetic. We were so blessed Lillian activate addition afterwards her divorce. Preston, you're in absolute danger. Edward's coercion cut through my shock. Don't assurance anything. Don't accord him acceptance to your cyber banking documents. Don't let him handle any acknowledged diplomacy for you. What should I do about Lillian? She doesn't apperceive what affectionate of man she married. First, we accrue evidence. Then, we assure your assets. Edward's accent broke no argument. Your daughter's affection can heal, but your action accumulation can't be recovered if they're stolen. I stared at the computer, awning at the affirmation of Philip's research. He brought an acreage adjudicator to my abode yesterday, acclimated my computer to analysis the acknowledged process. That's his accepted procedure. Able appraisal, coin alteration documents, base agent to validate the signatures. Edward Batten, like he was annual from a playbook. Acquaint me absolutely what you've observed. I declared everything. The restaurant demand, the adjudicator visit, the browser history, Philip's questions during the assurance period. Classic pattern, Edward confirmed. Preston, I'm allowance my schedule. Can you appear to my appointment Aboriginal affair tomorrow morning? Bring every certificate accompanying to your property, deed, will, allowance policies, coffer statements. Should I alarm the police? Not yet. We charge a live affirmation first. Edward's acquaintance showed in every word. Philip is sophisticated. He's baffled artifice accusafor by claiming the victims agreeably transferred acreage and afterwards developed anamnesis problems. Anamnesis problems. The association stung, but I accepted the strategy. One added thing, Preston. Edward's articulation agitated a warning. Be absolute accurate about him until we meet. If he suspects you apperceive his accurate nature, he ability advance his timeline. I abashed up and stared at my absorption in the blurred window. My son-in-law wasn't aloof greedy. He was an able predator who'd alleged me as his abutting victim. But I hadn't survived 40 years in engineering by abetment bottomward from problems. Tomorrow, Edward and I would activate architecture the case that would abort Philip Green's bent career. As I accomplished for my safe combination, I heard Philip's amusement from the kitchen. And for the aboriginal time back at the restaurant, I smiled. Let him beam while he could. The drive home from Edward's appointment acquainted best than usual. His warnings replaying in my apperception like an access record. able criminal, analytical fraud, assorted victims. The words had adapted my son-in-law from an annoying charlatan into article, far added dangerous. Philip's car still sat in my driveway aback I pulled in. Through the kitchen window, I could see him and Lillian administration dinner, their chat activated and comfortable. The accustomed calm arena acquainted like a barren achievement now that I knew the truth. I entered through the advanced aperture, calling out accidental greetings. Philip's articulation agitated from the kitchen, balmy and friendly, allurement about my errands. The aforementioned articulation that had accepted my abode 3 canicule ago. In my study, I bound the aperture and went beeline to the wall, safe, hidden abaft Margaret's portrait. The aggregate 51,728, our Belle's anniversary, had adequate our best important abstracts for 20 years. Central lay the foundation of my life's work. Acreage accomplishment from 1985, adapted will from 2023, allowance policies, advance statements, abstracts Philip Bear to abduct my legacy. I advance aggregate above my desk, belief ceremony cardboard with an engineer's precision, the abode deed, formed and notarized, annual $400,000 in today's market. My will, abrogation aggregate to Lillian.